You know, things over the last 24 to 48 hours have been frankly pretty boring. I'm sure you guys can agree with that. We had a nice bounce back yesterday. We saw some selling on the overnight candle. We're seeing some selling to start the day for US money. And we'll see what trend takes over here. We're doing some retests just like everything else in the crypto market. It's a question of, again, are we going to get this bounce off of here, or are we going to do some retesting? Will we see some double bottoms maybe form? I do have to say there are a few things here that have changed for SHIB. I do want to talk about search volume. There's something that we definitely need to pay attention to here. We did see a fundamental shift in terms of open interest for SHIB. This is something we have not seen in a long time. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So I have to say, first of all, that things are pretty boring. Volume is quieting down just slightly. We're still seeing over $200 billion in trading volume across the crypto market. SHIB is quieted down to about 200 million in volume over the last 24 hours. You can see that kind of everything is just dropping down and getting blah. We're doing some aggressive chopping in these ranges. Now, I will say yesterday we did have a great day in terms of US money. We actually closed that 12-hour candle up 3.15%. You can see the overnight candle was red. You guys can see the US candle has started red. Right now on the daily, we're down about 2% or so, which is in line with everything else. Right now, everything's down about 1.5 to 4% or so. So kind of just right in the middle here. And what we're watching is SHIB and many others retest this recovery trend. We're seeing, hey, are we going to get a bounce off of this? Maybe try to target some prices that we haven't seen since Friday of last week. Are we going to get a drop lower and retest maybe some of these support levels? That's the big question here. Now, it's like I talked about in my ADA videos. It's going to sound very repetitive, but institutional money is flipped. They started buying on the Ethereum side. They're actually outpacing BTC right now, which is interesting. $236 million in accumulation over the last 24 hours versus $102 million in accumulation over the last 24 hours for BTC. So you're starting to see, again, institutional players get comfortable accumulating in these ranges, and these tend to set very distinct trends, especially as you get into the later part of the week. That tends to be when you see altcoins kind of catch up per se, but it's frankly been pretty quiet, pretty boring, not a whole lot going on, and that's okay. It tends to get pretty quiet before things get very loud in the space. And with these retests taking place in terms of BTC and Ethereum, this could be a moment where, again, things get kind of lively, where volume increases. We'll have to watch and wait and see what happens. But I did want to mention that yesterday we got very close to closing the CME gap in terms of Bitcoin. Maybe this is kind of that send moment for the market. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. And actually, it's been pretty quiet and boring in terms of SHIB holders. You guys remember we talked about that speculative pump in terms of holders that took place all the way back on Monday of last week. We're slightly higher in terms of holders from that point, but it looks almost dead flat. There has not been a lot of change there. It's been very quiet. And it seems like a lot of people are just waiting and they're just hesitant to make a move right now. And that's fine too. I will say right now, what we're seeing is search volume for Shiba Inu. Actually, in the last 90 days, we just hit the lowest level we have seen there. And again, today, this is a partial search candle day, so I'm not putting too much stock in that. But volume for assets in general has been slightly declining, despite some of the excitement that we saw. Now, that being said, it's not the lowest search volume we've seen in the last year. It's not the lowest search volume we've seen ever. You guys can see things got pretty quiet back in June, pretty quiet back here in April as well. And we're setting in higher lows from that point. So I guess that's a good sign. But right now, it seems like retail is kind of worn out and kind of blah, not really too thrilled about the way that things are taking place in the market. And I get it. Eventually, we're going to see some of these bigger trends take over. And again, I think that's a trend that could move the market to the upside. It's like we're seeing here a lot of posts talking about this exchange supply removal. We obviously talked about this in terms of SHIB yesterday. There are very consistent trends that supply around the market just continues to dwindle. Now, I did notice something interesting for SHIB here in terms of open interest. We have seen open interest increase over the last 24 hours. Again, another 5%. This is slowly but surely trickling back to the upside. We're still at a long-short ratio that is very much positive. The bulls are definitely opening up long positions in terms of SHIB. However, when we look at SHIB over the last 2 days here, there's obviously a lot of red. We're seeing some retracement here. I mean, we're not down a crazy amount. We're down about 5%, 5.6% during that time. But what's very interesting is that during this time, we have actually had more short leverage liquidations than long leverage liquidations. So what we're seeing right now is actually the short leverage, which had been pushed really far away from price, is now closing in on price, and the long leverage that was really close to price is starting to separate from price. And so actually this makes it a little bit easier for us to move to the upside, because you can much more quickly liquidate shorts now versus the opposite taking place. It was much more easy to liquidate longs. So maybe this is the point where, again, you have people that are making bad decisions and are trying to short the market too close to bottoms, and it actually ends up turning into a squeeze the opposite direction. This is just kind of my thoughts on this. Unfortunately, we don't have a SHIB liquidation heat map, so we can't see how close that short leverage is to price, but this is a pretty notable trend. We'll wait and see if this is the continued trend here nonetheless, but because obviously these things can change very quickly. You could see big longs open up positions very close to price. You could see shorts just close out their profit positions, et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of where we're at. It might be boring today. We'll see what happens. Jerome Powell spoke yesterday. That didn't really do a whole lot for the markets. Next week's our CPI report, but hopefully we can just continue this recovery that we're on. So appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below, but have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.